and unfairly taken away from her. The residents of this community, especially our young children, deserve to live in a safe environment. Now, research shows that crime is on the rise nationally, but national trends or not, no one wants to have these things happen in our community. And again, that's why this particular moment is just something that hits home a little bit more for a lot of us. To our community, I want you to know that our police department has been working tirelessly. I am very proud of the men and the women of the Lake Charles Police Department. I know that we would not be here today if it wasn't for the work, the tireless work of the men and women of the Lake Charles Police Department. I thank you for that. I'll say again, there's nothing we can do to bring this little girl back, but hopefully, I pray that we are able to provide some degree of justice for her family, and that would not even be a possibility if it weren't for you men and women. And I thank you for that. To the residents out there, again, please know that this police department has absolutely done everything and moved heaven and earth to bring this case to where we are today. I will repeat a few things that I've said in the past. I ask, I plead, I beg every parent out there to sit your teenagers and young adults down and look them in the eyes, look them dead in the eyes, and show them the picture of this little girl. And make these young men and women understand that this little girl was ruthlessly, unfairly taken away from her family and her friends. She was murdered, and it was because of gun violence. And so I ask and I beg and I plead with parents to sit down with your children and tell them what happens when you use guns to solve a problem, to solve a beef like this. And I pray that that conversation may make a difference in what we're seeing locally and nationally. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'm very proud of the Lake Charles Police Department. I thank the men and women here. We would not be here today if it wasn't for y'all's work. And I'll now ask City Council President Rodney Guillen to come up and say a few words. Mr. Guillen.
Thank you, Mayor. The Lake Charles City Council want to congratulate our Lake Charles Police Department for such a speedy investigation that's been going on. We all know that we've had a rash of shootings. You would think that the result of a shooting and the penalty that goes with it to some people, you would think that would be enough to change their minds about utilizing guns. But it seems like it's speeding it up. But we want the public to know that we stand behind the police department and all that they're doing, and we're going to call upon the citizens of Lake Charles. No matter what our police department does, they need your help. And when they shot that little girl who was sitting in a chair in her home and shot and killed her, I think that was enough to get all of our attention. And so even though that we sometimes complain about the way things going, this is an opportune time for you to get involved. All of us in this city of Lake Charles need to be involved in getting the necessary information to the police department. So if you know of anything, if your children kind of tip you off on anything, please know that we would certainly appreciate your giving that information to the Lake Charles Police Department. And we stand in the shoes of all of our citizens, knowing that you agree with that kind of concept. So thank you so much. And we are now going to turn the mic over to Chief Sean Caldwell. Chief?
Thank you, Councilman Guillen. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just recap real quick what happened on March 20th. So at about 11:15 on March 20th, we received a phone call, a call that is, in the 1400 block of Mill Street about a shooting. Tragically, Drea Gilry, a beautiful little 6-year-old girl, her life was ended there. That day, that night, as the mayor said, sitting on our couch watching TV. So Lake Charles police officers, and I'm going to ask you to pause for a second, and please pan the room and look at all of these officers and these people and these personnel from even different agencies who have worked on this case and have been doing so since that night. While you're panning, I'll continue. Lake Charles police officers, crime scene techs, members of the coroner's office, the crime lab, the district attorney's office, all worked together, and through this lengthy investigation, they were able to put a timeline together and find some answers for Drea and her family. What we learned is there was an ongoing argument between some people, and some of these people identify themselves as members of an organization called the North Side Babies. Since that shooting, our first arrest was on March 23rd. The last arrest that we made was Monday, April 4th. We've arrested 11 people with bonds, and I'm not going to mention their names, they'll be on here, with bonds as high as $2.5 million. There's still one outstanding, and there are more warrants to come. Before I entertain any questions, I'm going to ask ADA Jacob Johnson to come forward and talk about it.
Thank you, Chief. I want to echo what the mayor said, that the chief and the city council president, Mr. Guillen, said. The work that was put into this by police officers, ID Tech, coroner's office, crime lab is simply remarkable. This is not a one officer or two officer or three officer job. This is a tremendous amount of people, dozens and dozens of people that have been working for this child, this victim. And my hat's off to them. I know that there have been sleepless nights. I know that this is not a 9 to 5 gig, not anywhere close to that. This is a 5 a.m. to midnight gig, and then get up at 3 a.m. and work some more. You know, law enforcement, our law enforcement partners, prosecuting offices such as ours, we're a back-end solution to a front-end problem. And what we can do is prosecute as aggressively as we can. We can work as hard as we can to solve crimes. But the stopping of these things from happening is a front-end issue. And what I'm asking the community to do, our community members to do, is to do something that's pretty unpopular today, and that is to lead. A lot of times when people get involved in these kinds of crimes, generally it's not their first time doing something that's bad. And I'm not going to speak to specifics on any of these individuals, but generally speaking, people don't begin breaking the law by shooting up folks' houses, shooting up neighborhoods, shooting children. But a lot of times, they may not have been held to account previously because we may have had witnesses who will not participate, who will not talk with law enforcement, and maybe that's because of fear or a litany of reasons. But I'm asking that we raise our community standards. I'm challenging everyone. Please engage with law enforcement when you see or know of something about a shooting that thankfully is not a fatal shooting. Please participate in that investigation, because when those people cannot be held to account because of lack of witnesses, they become emboldened and they continue to shoot up neighborhoods, and that will almost always eventually become fatal. Let's do what we can to nip those things in the bud. I know that it's tough. I do. But know that participating in an investigation may be, and often is, what stops a child or an elderly person or a middle-aged person from being killed in the future. So I'm asking the people of this city to stand up for your city, stand up for your neighborhoods, because that's the only way that we can prevent these things in the future. And I appreciate the chief and the mayor and the council president for having us here, and I just want to congratulate the officers on their tremendous work and thank them for their tremendous work in this case.
Thank you, Jacob. So you were just handed, you members of the media were just handed the media release, and we're going to forward that here shortly. I want to let you all know that I'm going to entertain any questions, but realize that this is obviously an ongoing investigation. There are going to be things that I'm not going to be able to answer. So with that said, I'm here to answer what questions I can.
The group that identified themselves, you said they had a beef with whom? Or can you give any details about?
We know that there was some arguing, utilizing different social media platforms that was part of what led up to this.
Did they mean to shoot at that particular residence?
I believe that they intended to shoot at that residence.
So the Northside babies, we're talking about gang violence here, right?
It's certainly violence. I don't know that I would classify the Northside Babies as a gang. Perhaps they have the potential to be, but I don't believe at this point that they possess the organizational hierarchy, if you will, of something like the Crips and the Bloods.
Do you know how many more warrants will be issued?
There will be more. I don't want to give a hard number on that, but we expect more. Very well. If there are no further questions, that will end our press conference. Thank you.